A little while ago I asked you, well, Eli asked you on Facebook what you might like me to talk about next. You know, I'm always going on about Superman and different things and different jobs I've done, and it seemed like a chance to ask you, the fans, what you would like to hear about. And of course, it comes as no surprise that there was one that came out on top. And before I say which one that is, I have to just point out, the first time I was on the screen was some 45 years ago. So I'm that old. I'm actually soon going to have a blue plaque stapled to my forehead as an ancient monument, a relic of times gone by. Anyway, enough of that. So yes, so 45 years ago, and all these years I have had some wonderful co-stars. I've played opposite lots of very interesting people, but there's only one. Well, Lois Lane we know about, but I only had a brief moment with her, and I got her, well, she got me too, that's true, but it was brief. But there is only one person that really stands out in my whole career as the perfect sparring partner. You probably know who that is. Diana and Pamela from V. Yes, V is the top-ranking movie that you want me to talk about, TV series. And I'm delighted to be able to share some of my recollections, except of course I have very few because I'm slightly brain dead when it comes to the 80s. However, I have really put my thinking cap on. And the one thing that sticks out in my mind, aside from the fact that Jane is the best, and I'll tell you about her in a minute, Wellington boots. Do you know how glamorous V was? I mean, we saw the lizards, we saw the costumes, we saw those incredible sets. I mean, some of the best sets that, well, the best sets of the time. You know, science fiction wasn't popular back then, certainly not a TV series, but V was a big deal. And I was on Falcon Crest. So I had very big hair, big earrings, big shoulders. It was the 80s. It was all very glamorous. And I, of course, had come from Superman, and we know how I looked in Superman. And I wasn't really that ready to do another science fiction epic. I felt I'd done it. But when V came across the desk, there was no hesitation. The only problem was I was already doing Falcon Crest. Luckily, the producers worked it out with those producers, and I would run between sets. So I was very excited to get my sci-fi fabulous look, and slightly disappointed to find that those cool black leather boots that I was going to stride around in seemed to be like my Wellington boots from home in England. They certainly weren't glamorous, and I think that they were wellies, and they went hand in hand with a wig. Now, I had lovely hair, still do have quite a nice bob, but I have really, really, really nice hair. So to find myself in this, what I describe as a nylon permed wig, short thing, I was not best pleased. And one of the reasons that they told me was that dear Jane Badler had this glorious hair, this look, and they thought that I would look too similar to her if I had the same kind of hair. So of course, she won. But I mentioned earlier her being a sparring partner. It was amazing. I mean, aside from the fact that she does the best flaring of nostrils, the best flashing of the eyes, and we could actually compete in that, I think, the two of us. But it was a great match. We really enjoyed working together, and I'm sorry that she killed me so early on. I think it's a bit rotten, actually, because I was ready to go. But hey, what a great death. She shot me, and then I sort of did that sliding down the wall acting, which I must admit, I watched the other day. I excelled myself. But it was a great experience working with her, and I'm sorry we didn't get more opportunity to work together. And in fact, the chemistry was so good that we actually got cast in a pilot for a new series. We were to play twins, which is quite extraordinary considering that I'm quite a few inches taller than her. I'm taller and I'm English, but that doesn't matter when you're twins. But they cast us as twins, and we were going to do a pilot. Unfortunately, I had come to the end of my run on Falcon Crest. I decided to leave Falcon Crest, and I think the producers weren't best pleased with me because I was bailing out basically. And so when it came to trying to schedule, we overlapped by literally 2 days. And in a normal situation, as I said, with V, Falcon Crest had worked very closely together. I was able to do both. But when it came to the end of my second season on Falcon Crest, they tried everything to make it work for me to do this pilot, and they just couldn't work it out. I remember there was a yacht involved and a speedboat, and I was going to be filming Falcon Crest down at Long Beach, and it seemed like I was going to get a speedboat that would rush me to the location, which was up the beach a bit. And, you know, we got quite close to working it out, but it didn't happen, which is a great shame because she's great fun. And it was actually 30 years until I saw her again. and we had the best tea ever in a very fancy spot in London. Then I saw her again, because now she's this brilliant musician, and I went and listened to her singing in London, which was fabulous. This year is the 35th celebration of V, which is fantastic. And there's also the great news that Kenneth Johnson has been given the green light to go ahead and do a movie of V. So if they need any elderly aliens, I'm here and ready and keen. And I've enjoyed the whole V experience. One of the things I have to say is I am amazed and delighted at the fan base. My goodness me, you guys are great. I've met you, a fabulous group of you I think I was in Stockholm that I met a group of you. I certainly meet you wherever I go around the world. In fact, well, my mug's downstairs in the dishwasher, I'm sorry, but I have my V mug. I have all these wonderful things that you give me. And talking about that, I was given a jacket at the end of V. I think it was a crew jacket, but it was a very, very cool jacket with a big V on here. I kept it for years. Then I sent it home, because I lived in Hollywood, to my mother in Stratford-on-Avon and asked her to keep it. Then I discovered how much they were being sold for on eBay or some such thing, and tried to get hold of my mum to say, what happened to that jacket? And she had just given it to the local church for their rummage sale. So I don't know whether you have rummage sales in America, I don't know if you do. We don't really have them here anymore. But back in the day, you could throw all your clothes out and they got sold. So somebody, somewhere, is walking around in a jacket with V emblazoned on its chest. Certainly for a year, my mum wore it for her gardening, but it then went to the church. So it's all in a good cause, but oh my goodness, I wish I still had it. And the other wonderful thing about V is, as I said, the fans, you're all still there, which is fantastic, wherever I go. And it's funny because at the end of my short time on V, of course, I continued with Falcon Crest. V has continued to be in everybody's memories. People are coming, supporting, loving V. I think a lot of us have been long since forgotten on Falcon Crest. And of course, my career, I've done a lot of sci-fi movies, lots and lots of them, in fact. So it was a shame that I didn't continue, but of course, who knows what might come. One of the wonderful things about it is that as we go on, I still get the opportunities to meet up with people. Richard Hurd, of course, being one of my favourites, always good for a cup of coffee, a bit of frothy coffee, and a big hug from Richard Hurd, which is a great thing. And of course, Mark Singer, who I haven't seen in years. I actually went to the Galapagos Islands with Mark on a charity thing, which we had a wonderful time sailing around there, looking at the animals, raising money for an orphanage down in Ecuador, I believe it was. And my mother pointed out, wouldn't it have been better to give the money to the charity rather than spend it on you guys going to Ecuador, but that's by the by. And then, of course, we did Beastmaster together. Now, I didn't really do any scenes with Mark, although I did get to stand over him as he lay there in his lizard prosthetic, which was very exciting. And of course, when I revisit V, which periodically I do, I see the scenes between Andrew Prine and myself, and I think there was a spark there. He certainly, in my memory, was great to work with, and we definitely had a little spark, and I do think they could have given us a little bit of a love interest, don't you? It would have been wonderful. But she was the Supreme Commander, so there probably wouldn't have been any time for any hanky-panky, but Mr. Prime would have been the person, if there was anybody. And of course, recently, I've been fortunate enough to be up in Vancouver with Supergirl, and I do wonder if I'm going to spend my life going down those long, long, long corridors, because the corridor in Supergirl looks very like the corridor in V, but then V was shot on the Warner lot in Burbank, so I think it's a completely different set. But it does seem that they all have the same sort of flavour, and I'm very comfortable in them. I like walking down those long corridors. So I've mentioned the Wellington boots, I've mentioned the wig, but I do remember being on the set and checking out just how low Diana was wearing her V costume. And if she had it down to there, I made sure that I had it down to there too, because I wasn't going to have her upstage me with a pair of beauties, basically. I just made sure that we had absolutely identical levels. I can remember looking at her, just checking it out. That's the truth, honestly. And of course, the other thing, I never got to eat a mouse. That's fine by me. Believe me, I didn't need to eat a mouse. But a lot of the fans say, oh, you got to eat mice. Well, I didn't. And I never got to reveal my wonderful lizard self. But it's here. It's inside somewhere. So if you want to see it, look carefully.